If you want to see amazing and exciting duels, informative and entertaining top 10 lists, and everything else that's just great about the game of Yu-Gi-Oh, you gotta watch the Capital G Show. Shout outs to my homeboy Dante. Hey. What's up YouTube, Capital G here. So in the OCG, they just had Nationals. Looks like they had it in the same weekend that we actually had ours over here in the North America TCG. And wouldn't you know that Masked Heroes end up taking the entire event, which it's surprising to me being a TCG player, but then it's like conventional wisdom would have told you that Masked Heroes would have been a decent pick for the OCG. For some reason, and Heroes have actually won, like they've won Japanese Nationals in previous years, and it's like the deck never is truly dead. I don't know whether it's part of the culture, but there's always been this thing in the OCG where even if a deck isn't the most competitive, like even if it isn't the most like the best deck of the format, players will still religiously play it. That is the reason why Black Wings got hit so much, is that even when Konami did little pokes at Black Wings, like, all right, we're going to limit Gale, they're like, all right, we're still gonna play it. All right, we're gonna semi-limit Whirlwind. No, we're still gonna play it. All right, we're gonna put Kalut at 1. Now we're still gonna play it. And pretty much the same thing can be said about Heroes. It's just kind of a fan favorite deck, and Masked Heroes actually end up taking the event. Now there were a lot of other interesting things that topped. There were a lot of Warrior and Power decks. There were a lot of Clown Blade, Necros. But if you look at this deck, I mean, we all know that a well-timed or a turn 1 Dark Law can really spell destruction for like a Necros deck. What I found really interesting is, well, there were a couple of things. One thing is that I've noticed the OCG has always leaned towards 10 Goldfish over my buddy over here, Corky or Goblinberg. If you don't play League of Legends, you're just not going to get that reference. Now, part of that is because they only have one reinforcements of the army, so it's not like they can get to the card as quickly as we can. But another reason I think that is if you summon Goblinberg and then you summon your Shadow Mist like the traditional play, and then next turn you mass change into Dark Law, like Goblinberg is a very vulnerable card. It has 0 defense, it's in defense mode, and even if it lives past that turn, it's really not going to run over anything. At least with 10 Goldfish, you can put it in defense mode. If it lives for a turn, it has 2,000 ass. It can sit there for a while. You can use something like Abyss Dweller in combination, which he actually didn't run. I guess for Goblinberg, you can make the counter argument that you could use that with Blade Armor Ninja or Excalibur, but to be completely honest, I don't even think, like, I think Excalibur is starting to become a thing that's really not seeing play anymore, and it's probably going to be transitioning over to the TCG, even in warrior based decks, mainly because I think that Utopia the Lightning is just better, and plus it's generic as well. Another thing I found kind of interesting and just weird is that despite the fact that he's running 16 spells in his main deck, he decided to run Anti-Spell Fragrance. Now, I've ran Anti-Spell Fragrance at regionals. I did it, you know, because of Necros and whatnot, and this is good even in the OCG format where he may play in a mirror match. Anti-Spell Fragrance means that his opponent probably can't drop their own Dark Law. It's amazing against Necros. It's actually good against like any deck that plays pendulums, like the Warrior and Power deck. They play a lot of pendulums and whatnot. Can't, you know, play those or whatever when you have Anti-Spell Fragrance. But he has so many spells. It's like, you know, if you don't get this in the first 2 turns, it seems like it can kind of be dead. But then again, Heroes are a deck where they're primarily built for the first couple of turns anyway, so I can kind of understand that. And you would have thought that maybe he would have ran like multiple copies of Monk. I don't think Monk is limited in the OCG. It could be, but it's like, yeah, maybe you would have maxed out on Monk to just make sure, like, if you were drawing those spells and you had Anti-Spell Fragrance out, you could just dump them and then you could go into like Xyz. You could make some like really good Xyz like that Gusto Emerald or Luminescent Knights. And then the last thing I noticed was he went full YOLO when it comes to reviving monsters. You know what I mean? Like seeing 3 Call of the Haunted or 2 to 3 Call of the Haunted is kind of like the norm, or it's really not that, like, it's not that absurd for Masked Heroes. But then to add 3 Oasis of the Dragon Souls. Like, the only deck you really see that out of is Sertellar Knights because they have Altair. So seems like too much of a good thing, especially because if he does bring back Shadow Mist with the effect, I mean, how many times can you get Mass Change off? But again, this deck is probably built for the early game. It's built for dominance within the first 3 turns. I think this breakthrough thing, the breakthrough skill being maxed out, I think that's something that's transitioning or has already transitioned all to TCG. If you were looking at Nationals, breakthrough skills seem to be everywhere in a bunch of different decks. So this isn't that surprising to me, but Heroes winning the event is. And if I'm not mistaken, I know in years past, there's actually been like Japan has actually had multiple nationals. Like there's been an East and a West. I think they've usually had like one event in Tokyo and then another event in like Osaka or another event in like Hiroshima. So we'll have to see if they do that this year and what else tops. But I'm fascinated to just see Heroes still so dominant in the OCG, despite the fact that there's really only 3 card difference between this deck and what you could run in the TCG, that being, you know, Stratos, Feather Duster, and Monster Reborn. But I guess those are all absurdly good cards, so, you know, it does make a big difference. So anyways, let me know what you guys think. Thank you for watching as always. Subscribing makes life happy.